Alright, we're live. Oh, let me... There we go, and then... Hopefully the owner of the... Actually, can we go to another channel for this, since this isn't actually our channel?
Yeah, let's go to my channel.
Okay, it's QQ's Kokoro towards... Okay. Okay, now let me just edit this so it says live.
Channel edited.
Okay.
Alright, so there's like 3 of us and only 1 of you. So
yeah,
if you think we're ganging up on you, just call out the whole hey, and let us know.
yeah, I'll do that.
So we're live right now? I'm waiting for the stream to come online.
Yeah, we are. Hold on, I got an idea. Let me see something.
Once I see it go live, I'll tweet it out. So, hello everyone. I am now...
I'm back. What's going on?
So, we are live, just so you know, Templar. So, I was on Twitter today, and I saw someone that I'd never heard of before, called Anti-Facist. Am I pronouncing that right? Challenge me to a debate.
It's a Pokemon.
Oh,
Okay.
so basically, this is not, in fact, trolling. He is, in fact, some Antifa faggot, and, like, needs to be gassed with the rest of them, is what you're saying?
Well, their account is brand new, so we actually don't know anything about them, except that they signed up for Twitter sometime in April, maybe yesterday.
Alright.
Their first tweet was yesterday. So, who knows? Who knows? We will find out, though. But we should...
Alright.
Are we streaming to Realcar? Because Realcar is not live right now.
I don't know why, I mean...
I'll be back in a bit.
Okay, I'll let me go off there then.
No. It's up.
We see? Oh, okay. Let me see.
Okay, let me tweet this out. So let's start at the very fundamentals, because I've always wanted to ask someone this.
Hey, there we go. Perfect.
I didn't hear that.
Sorry,
if you...
just setting up a bit. Let me just...
Yeah, we're having some technical...
No, it's fine. Just keep going. I'm just setting up... There we go. Now I can play OC Remix songs, and it'll credit them automatically, and I don't gotta do anything.
Good.
Nice. Gotta stick with that strict legal compliance for copyright. So, let's start at the very basics, as I said. And the very first question that I should ask is the following. Is it possible to arrive at objective truth through the process of reason?
Yes.
Okay, so if 2 people observe the same thing or the same interactions within objective reality, and they arrive at totally different, in fact, contradictory conclusions about the state of objective reality, is it possible for each of their subjective views to be correct?
No, definitely. Well, it depends what the topic is. I mean, yeah.
Okay, through what process do we determine which one is correct?
I guess it would be through trial and seeing the results of it.
Alright, so you're not too far gone then. A lot of the philosophy behind certain popular political positions these days originates from answering the first question with no. And once you've done that, what you introduce is the concept of, well, actually, I should ask that one as well. Is there such a thing as objective morality? In other words, are certain actions objectively good and other actions objectively bad?
Well, I mean, no, but I think we can all agree, or at least I hope that none of you are too far gone to agree that genocide is bad. I don't know, I see you sometimes make jokes about that.
Well, that's a tough one, right? Because what if there existed a culture, say, for example, Mayan culture, where mass killings of your own people was considered to be a morally correct thing, and in fact a pious thing to do? In that culture, would it then be morally correct? Or is morality something that lies beneath culture? In other words, that is objectively wrong, even if the culture in which you live says it's okay.
Well, it would be technically objectively wrong. Like, there would be a morality that kind of lies beneath the kind of in the animal mind of humans, I'd think. So, like, we do have these cultures and stuff that form and stuff, but at the base level of it, we're all human, and there's some things to the human mind that just have common sense on what should and shouldn't be.
Good. Now, we may disagree fundamentally about where the subjective morality comes from, but that is a good start because, as I've said, there's a current political trend right now towards relativism. Both relativism when it comes to the state of objective reality, and relativism when it comes to cultures and their morality. So, starting off by rejecting relativism, or at least admitting that not everything is relative, is a good way to start. So, the next question is, what is the role of the state in society?
To reinforce the culture. They follow what people want, so that they reinforce the culture, which should have been Hillary winning, but, you know, stuff happened.
Well, we can talk about the Electoral College if you really want to go there. Because the Electoral College is specifically built to be a form of compromise between two different metrics.
I kind of get that, but at the same rate, like, the more developed areas, well, they tend to have more intelligent people. So, like, it's kind of a weird toss-up.
Where is your
Well,
evidence of
again, I'm not going to accept that as necessarily true. But even if we do, which I'm not, there is the issue of needs. Do the people who live in large cities have the same set of needs as people who live in rural areas?
Technically, yes, but it's different. Like, they have different difficulties in achieving those needs, definitely.
Yes, I mean, we can argue that if you go down to the very, very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they have the same need for shelter and food and things like that. But as you get further and further advanced in the needs that they have, I think we can agree that they're not fundamentally the same. There are differences in the needs that a city dweller has from someone who lives in a rural area.
Yeah. Definitely, but like...
So, what is the difference between how the House represents the states and how the Senate represents the states? In other words, the selection process for both the House and Senate in the U.S. You're not from the U.S., so you might not know this.
No.
But I can clarify it. There's actually a very distinct difference between how the House represents the states and the Senate represents the states. And we also have a third branch, the executive branch, which is the president. So, in the Constitution of the United States, they actually accounted for the fact that the federal government representing the needs of the states might need to have different needs for populous areas and for areas with large geography. So what they ended up doing is making it so that out of the three houses of government, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, the House has it selected one way, the Senate has it selected the other way, and the executive branch has it selected through a combination of the two.
Right.
So, I always forget which is which. Let me look this up really quickly.
User joined your channel.
Wham.
Alright. So, what it ended up being is the following method. It's all these numbers and bullshit, but I want to get it right, because if I get it wrong, someone's going to call me out on it and say that I am, because I missed a number or something, I'm wrong about everything. So, this is what they came up with. The United States House represents the population of the country. In other words, the number of seats in the House scales up and down depending on how many people you have living in your state. So in other words, if you have a lot of people living in your state, you will have more House representatives. So this represents the populous areas more than it does the areas of large geography. The Senate is the inverse. It represents the large geography. It has exactly 2 senators per state, regardless of the population or size of the state. So, how many votes does the Electoral College get for each state? Well, it's actually really simple. It's the sum of the two. The number of Executive College votes that each state gets is the sum of the seats that state has in the House and the seats that state has in the Senate. And through this compromise, you reach a theoretical balance where the states who have a large population, take for example New York, California, and so on, don't really get to bully the states that have a large geography, which is any state in flyover country, because there's this balance between the two of them.
You see, while that kind of does make a bit of sense, it just doesn't seem like... Why not just have it basically equal for each state, an equal number of House representatives and, you know, the voting, depending on the thing?
It's really, really complicated, and if you really want to know why they arrived at this final decision about how to do it, you would have to read the Federalist and the Anti-Facist papers, which I haven't read in ages, so it would not be advisable for me to go over all the reasoning. But basically, there is massive debates when the country was formed about what the size, role of the federal government should be, and how it should represent the people. And this compromise was basically the result of a lot of debate by the founders. So, while it may be a system that has some results that seem anomalous, such as this last election, it seems to baffle people that this kind of outcome would happen. That one person would get the popular vote and yet the other would win the election. It seems unusual. It is the result of a set of compromises that were to allow for this very problem to be solved. That the needs of the rural states is different from the needs of the populous states, and so they both deserve representation in government.
Okay, I'll concede on that, honestly, because you seem to have all the research down and I have nothing, so yeah, I'll concede on that.
Okay, so
Quick interruption while we go to break. Top Hat Coyote says in the chat, Q, give a shout out to hashtag Trap Nationalism. K, thanks.
all right, yes. So this was a debate that started in the alt-furry hashtag. So I think it's appropriate for us to name one of our closer allies. While we have had brief scuffles and fallouts with the anime right, resulting in the leader of the anime right blocking me, we are still friendly with them, and the Anime Right News Network and I mutually follow each other. However, a close ally of ours is the Trap Nationalism movement, which is exactly what it sounds like. So shout out to Trap Nationalism for their undying, unwavering support for the alt-furry movement.
You almost said motherfucking trash nationalism. Some ally you are, sir.
Well, they'll have to bring it up at the next council meeting if they took offense at that. I will be sure to make amends.
Council? What?
So you called this debate, and you must have had some topics in mind that you would like to hit. What would you like to discuss?
I kind of get that you guys support Trump and all, but my main issue is just what's with all the Nazi stuff that you always just go on with? Like, if you wanted people to think that you weren't fascists and Nazis, you'd think that you wouldn't, like, you know, pretend to be Nazis.
But it's funny.
The PR of fascism, my Nazis, must stop having fun, guys. Don't you dare make fun of my 6 gorillion.
That is a summary, but not an explanation. So, I guess the answer is why not?
Because you don't want people to think you're Nazis.
Why?
Well, I don't think that they would if they got to know me. Mostly because of my opposition to a command economy.
A command economy. Right.
Yes, command economy. Under National Socialism, the socialism part did actually take effect. Under the estimation of the National Socialists themselves, keep in mind in socialist states they tend to fudge all of their numbers, so who knows if this was accurate or not. They claimed that 50% of their economy was controlled by the state.
I mean, that kind of does make sense. I'll actually, yeah, okay, that does make sense because they had that massive economic growth right before the war, so, like, whatever.
Yeah, so they had a different model of how socialism would work than Marxist socialism. Marxist socialism's ideas were that, well, first of all, Marxist socialism believed that socialism would inevitably lead to communism. And not only that, but both socialism and communism would be international movements. In other words, the entire world would, on its own, eventually convert to socialism, and then with the abolishment of the state after that would become communist. National Socialism took a different approach. They thought that each nation had its own unique needs, its own unique culture, and so forth, so that if each nation were to establish socialism, they would create fundamentally incompatible forms of socialism. In other words, socialism would need to be customized at the national level, national socialism. They also took a different approach with regards to the means of production. Within National Socialist Germany, the means of production largely remained within private hands. However, the output of that production was dictated by the state. Whereas, of course, as we know in Marxist socialism, the means of production is basically either held in common, or people keep the output of the means of the production themselves. The means of their own production. So it's a fundamentally differently structured command economy, but it is still a command economy, and I don't really think that command economies are good ideas.
Why don't you think they're good ideas? Like, I mean, the way, like, beyond the genocide, I mean, the Nazis kind of did do an alright command economy. They made it work, right?
There's a few problems with a command economy that I can go into. I can go into it from a few different approaches, but at the most basic, there's two ways of having having it so that there is no means of the there is no private decisions made, I should say. There is each individual person does not make a decision. The decision is made by some form of planning. There's two ways of doing this. The one that's always been done every single time is that you create either a leader or a planning board that does all the economic planning. The ideal version that people keep talking about that will never ever happen because it's impossible, is that the whole community as a whole gets together and makes the planning decisions instead. That is kind of the anarchist view, is that we don't need a planning board or leaders or anything like that. Everyone will come together and make all the decisions. But fundamentally, these are the same. What you're assuming is that that there will be some group of people, either all of the people or almost always a small subset of the people, who will plan the economy and decide what the inputs and outputs should be, what everyone should do, and how to come to the ideal happy situation. So the first problem is the simple one, and that is, unless you manage to eliminate money, this will lead to a police state. And the reason is simple. If you have a command economy, what is the biggest economic crime? The biggest economic crime is not following the plan. Not following what the planners dictate to you to do. Now, the planners can influence you in several ways. They can basically march up to you in jackboots and make you do what they want you to, or they can play with the price index. This is what is most common, is in order to make their plan come around, they will start fixing prices. They will say the price of this good should be this, and the price of this good should be that. And if you can't make that price, the state will step in and make sure that the goods and labor that you're being provided with also conform to a set of prices which allow you to make your quota. The issue with that then becomes that the prices no longer reflect the actual value of goods and services. And what that means is that if your good and service is overvalued, you're just fine, you're happy, you're hunky-dory. However, if your good and service is undervalued, that means you're working and producing the same as what you've always made. You're getting paid considerably less than you should be. And this will result in you desiring to be paid as much as you used to be, which will mean that it becomes more and more appealing as the price diverges from the value of your goods for you to engage in black market transactions. Black market transactions are the enemy of a plan economy. In fact, they make you the number one enemy because you are subverting the plan. And as we've seen in Venezuela recently, with them rounding up all the bakers because they're using their state-provided flour to make brownies instead of the two kinds of bread that the government allows you to make, the punishments are often severe. They have to make them severe because the temptation to engage in black market transactions becomes very, very high. And in order to find out about these black market transactions, you have to establish some kind of citizen reporting. In other words, people like neighborhood watch style, people turn each other in, or you establish some form of massive surveillance network, police state style. Everyone that you meet in the day-to-day could be an undercover officer, and there's cameras on every street corner style of thing. So that is one of my objections to a command economy, is that it tends to lead to a police state.
Okay, but I mean, what's exactly wrong with a police state? Because okay.
People kind of like freedom.
I'm gonna stop and just go ahead and say, you had better be asking a rhetorical question with that and not actually being serious, because if not, QQ, I think we may have found the most rooted individual on the face of this planet.
No, I mean, like, okay.
What's wrong with gassing Jews?
That's actually
That's a different topic.
No, that's
I'm sorry,
actually directly
I had
relevant to this because Germany was in a very odd situation then when it came to the Jews, right? Because why is it that they hated the Jews so much?
No, just a target, I guess.
That's a part of it, yes, and that's also something that you'll often find out in places that start to implement some kind of totalitarianism. Is that it is necessary for them to create an other, some group that they can blame all the problems on. However, they specifically chose the Jews for a few reasons. One of which is there was a set of German values in their culture that viewed the professions that the Jews engaged in, which were often very profitable, as being disreputable or disrespectful in some way. So the Germans wouldn't do it, so this outsider would come in and do it, and they would get a lot of money off of it, and then they would be resented for having all this money. Another reason is more historical and speculative, but I have this suspicion that a lot of Jewish people end up in very powerful positions because for most of human history, the three big religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, Christianity and Islam had strict rules against charging any interest whatsoever when lending, whereas Judaism only had those restrictions when interacting with other members of the same religion, which meant that if you were to have a banker, that banker would have to be a Jewish banker. So they ended up in control of a large number of Germany's financial assets as a result. So what this ends up resulting in is you have a class that it's very easy to blame all of the society's problems on, because they have a bunch of money, they're doing all the jobs that the culture views as being disreputable in some way, and they are the most likely to undermine your plans for the economy.
QQ, Placebo wants to hear Antifa Joltik talk a bit more.
Right, okay, like... Okay, whatever. Look, I clearly came a bit unprepared for this. Yeah?
Obviously, and like, dude, just, my god, what the hell? And like, why would you come here if you didn't come prepared? And like, dead to rights, we should just be leaning on you at this point, because
What do you want to talk about? What are you prepared to talk about?
I mean, I was expecting, like, there'd be actual planning, like, meeting minutes and stuff, but this is just, this has been a bit of an eye-opener, but no, yeah, it's been interesting, and I kind of have a bit of a thing that I need to do, so I'm gonna go. Bye.
Alright, have a good one.
Yeah, well, I was about half an hour, so that's pretty good.
Good size for debate. Come back anytime, by the way.
Yeah.
We can debate online or offline or whatever.
Sure. Bye.
User disconnected from your channel.
Okay, I guess we'll see you around, everyone.